Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at the new roll and write version of Long Shot. This is Long Shot, the dice game. For those of you that don't know, Long Shot, the original, is a game that came out in 2009, and it is a horse racing, horse betting game, in which you are rolling a couple of dice, moving some horses ahead, and then playing cards to move horses, to manipulate what's going on. You're putting bets on horses, you're buying horses, trying to end up with the most money possible. This is a reworking of that, largely. It is a game that is a roll and write. It'll have dry erase boards, of course, but it's also a lot faster than the original game. It's at least half the time, if not shorter than that. The original game took between 60 and 90 minutes. This is about half an hour. And it is going to be smoother, a little more, just sort of involved. Everybody's going to get an action on every roll, as opposed to in the original game. And it's more modern, I suppose. So, if you don't know the original game, that's fine. You don't need to. I'm going to go ahead and show you what comes in here, how it all works, and I'll see you back up here for some thoughts on this one. To set up the game, we're going to put out the board. We're going to line up the horses here at the starting line. Put the two dice somewhere near the table. Every player gets one of these, which is a dry erase board you'll be marking on. And then we'll pick a set of horses and lay them all out. The game comes with 3 different sets, so we're just using one of those right now. But you could even mix and match these. I could be using the 1 from this set, the 2 from this one, the 3 from this one. So you can do that however you want to. Though these do all match, they're the same set, and there's a little symbol by the cost of the horse to let you know what set it belongs to. So I'll set those aside, and then we're going to shuffle up these cards, and every player gets one, all right? So for example, that player might get that one, this player might get that one, and you are going to do a couple of things with this card. You're going to mark off the corresponding spots here in your concession area. So for example, here I have this one's crossed off, that one, this one, and this one. And then these 2 bets, you begin with those bets already. So I have $3 on the number 4 horse, and I have 3 on the number 6 horse. Once you've done that, then you are done and you can discard this card. I'm not going to bother with this one, but they would do the same thing. And then you are ready to begin. So you've got a start player. And I also need to begin with $12 right there. So again, just imagine this player is doing the same thing. Then you're ready to begin. So on your turn, let's say it's this player's turn, they're going to roll both of these dice. And these dice are going to tell you what horse moves, that's the horse die, and how many spaces it moves. There's 1s, 2s, and 3s on here. So the 2 horse will move 1 space. Then we are going to check that horse's secondary movement line right here, and everything that is marked off, as the 5 is right here, and it begins pre-printed on there, all those horses are going to move 1. Now I want to make it clear that if 2 had moved 3 and had gone 1, 2, 3, every secondary movement horse still only moves 1. So 5 would move once, okay? So that secondary is always 1 step. And then every player, starting with the starting player, the one who rolled the dice, is going to take 1 action. Your actions are listed right here, and they always will tie to the horse symbol that got rolled, the number of that horse. So here are your possibilities. You can go to the concession and mark off the number rolled, so the 2. So I could, for example, do this and mark off that 2 there. Then it would be the next player's turn, okay? And people could do the same action, by the way, as somebody else who already took an action this round. So that could be my first option. You are trying to complete columns and rows here. When you do one of those things, or possibly both a column and a row at the same time, then you are going to, for each of those you completed, check one of these bonuses and immediately take it. They'll let you move horses up or back, let you take money, put out a free bet, and so on. So that's your first option, the concession. You could do the helmet for the, again, 2 horse. I would mark the helmet here, and I am going to, this allows me to do 2 things. If I have the helmet and the jersey marked off on a horse, I'm going to get $5 at the end of the game for each combination of jersey and helmet that I've marked on a horse. But also, if I have the helmet marked, that means I can still put a bet on a horse after it's gone past the no bet zone right here, the no bet line in these spaces. Next option is the jersey. If I mark the jersey, then I am going to immediately, obviously again it helps me towards that bonus, but I'm also going to immediately make a mark on that corresponding horse on any number I want to. So maybe I'll mark the 7 here. And that means every time 2 is rolled, the 5 horse will move once, and now the 7 horse will also move once. Next option is a bet. I can choose to put a bet on the number 2 horse. And I can bet 1, 2, or $3. I will make that mark right here, and then I will reduce that amount from my total, like so. If there already was a bet, you simply add on the amount to your current total. So if I already had 3 on there, I would just change that to 5 and still reduce my number, okay? And then lastly, you can buy a horse. That one, obviously, if someone has already purchased that horse, you cannot do. But I can buy the number 2 horse. When I buy this horse, I need to pay the amount listed in the top corner here. I'm going to go ahead and move him to right there so you can see what's going on. Let me give him his mark back there. And this horse is going to cost me $10, and it has an ability that I'll have access to from that moment on, all right? If you own the horse, that is. So that's basically what's going on. Once everyone has taken an action, these dice pass to the next player. They'll roll, move that horse, check the secondary movement and move those horses, and then take an action. This keeps going until 3 horses have finished the race. The first one to cross the finish line ends up right here. Second place might be, say, this one. And then third place will go right there. At that point, the game is over, and we're going to calculate our scores. So let me explain to you how that works. The very top here, and this is for your score, the very top is if you own one of the horses that won the race. If you own the number 1 horse, you get $35. Number 2, you get $25. Number 3, you get $15. The next one is for the jersey and helmet combos. You get $5 for every combo in which you've done both for the same horse. Next, we're looking at the bets. You are going to check how much you have on a horse, assuming it's one of these 3, ideally, but I'll go ahead and set up these horses as though the race is much later, okay? So let's do that. This guy only made it to there. He's not so good. And then you are going to figure out how much you get. So, for example, the number 2 horse was first place. I put $2 on it. And he is first, which means times 5. 2 times 5, that horse is going to make me $10, like so. Then the number 3 horse I had no bet on, and I'll give him 3 for him. Number 3 horse I had no bet on, so nothing for that. And the number 8 horse, I had $3 on him. He's a bit of a long shot, so his calculation is much higher. 3 times 7 would be 21, just because he's unlikely to win, okay? And also, anyone who is in this area, this no bet zone, you get a return on your money for those. So assuming I had bet on the number 1 horse a couple of times and it added up to 5, he ended up in this area. So at least I get my money back. I'll get 5 back on that. All right? So that's how the betting works. The final thing you add to your total is any money remaining in hand, and then you sum all that up and figure out what your total score is for the game. So that's generally how it works. There's obviously, again, all these powers that once you own the horse will allow you to change the things you do. Typically, they modify one of the actions you can take to allow you to do a different new thing. So let's, for example, take a look at one here. We can take a look at the number 2 we've been working on. So the number 2 says, as a symbol there, that means when you do the bet action. And it says if you place a $3 bet on a horse that is in last place or tied for last, this only costs you $1. So if I want to bet on the last one, I can write 3, but I only remove $1 from my total. And so on for all of these different characters, different horses. Again, I'm not going to go over all of them, but that's how they work. Whoever has the most money at the end of the game is going to be the winner. One final thing I want to mention is you have throughout the game 3 times, generally just 3 times, you can mark off one of these spots right here to make this horse die for yourself wild. So even if 6 got rolled this time, you can mark that when you're taking an action and treat it as any number. Say you really want to mark off a number 1 here. Well, you can do that if you give yourself a wild for that round. All right? So there you go. That's the game. Let's go ahead and go back up top. I still own my original copy of Long Shot, and it's a game I'm a fan of. Though, to be fair, I think the game is too long for what it is. But it's got great energy. It's a very fun, jovial, stand up and roll and cheer kind of game. It just goes on for a bit. I think this one is a fantastic game that manages to capture just about everything I liked in the original. The energy, the excitement, the bets, the hoping that that horse that's definitely a long shot and sort of bringing up the rear of the pack is going to make a great comeback. It's going to give you all of those things and do it in 30 minutes with some streamlined mechanisms and just a general nice flow. And then the special abilities on the horses too, if you own that horse. So I think it's a great package. Let's go ahead and break it down a little bit more as I've got here my breakdown. So the theme and the setting gets a thumbs up from me. I really like the idea of this race, this thing that everybody's sort of invested in. The fact that those players' investments are going to change throughout the game. As you buy a horse, you really want it to win. As you put a lot of money and bets into a horse, you're hoping that one's going to show up. You're going to start marking that horse's number on all the horses you can. So that no matter who gets rolled, that horse you're invested in gets a little tick ahead. It gets a little step, hoping to make that up, right? And it treats the theme with the aesthetics coupled with that in a much more lighthearted way. The original game was a good-looking game, but the illustrations were generally realistic. It felt more serious, for lack of a better term. I think this one, the theme, coupled with the aesthetics that I really like, make it much more lighthearted and silly and uproarious in a way. So I really like the look of this one. All the horse illustrations are goofy, hilarious. Everything is just a little sillier, and it works for the game. The wooden horses here as well, these tokens that are screen printed with the horses, are also very nice and work well. Or all the dry erase material is great. Everything fits nicely back in the box. It's one of these magnetic clasp boxes. So it's got that cool, magnetic seal. So I really like the components here, the aesthetics, the production. The replay value is very good. You've got 3 horse sets out of the box with different special abilities. Their purchasing value will be the same. The secondary movement is the same. It's the ability on the horses that is going to be different. And you can even mix and match, like I said. So that's very cool. Everybody begins with a slightly different setup where you begin with some of the numbers crossed off, a couple of bets on some of the horses. So you already have some horse that you're invested in from the very beginning. So immediately there is that difference between the players, and I think that's great. So the replay value here is fantastic. Couple that with the fact that the game is quick, very good. The game arc. The original one had this too, this feeling of tension building, and as the horses start to get close to the end zone, to the finish line there, players are going, come on, I need that 7 to come up. Well, this one gives me that same feeling. They just make it around the track a little bit faster. And then all the manipulation, all the shenanigans you can pull off with pushing a horse forward 3 spaces, or maybe pulling a couple of horses back 2 spaces each. All those things. As a horse crosses that no bet line, you were hoping to get in another bet and you couldn't quite do it. Well, you can mark the helmet and maybe you can still make a bet next time that number comes up, or mark one of the wilds and put a bet on it next time. So I like all of that. The game arc gives you plenty of things to do, coupled with that nice rising tension as the race wraps up, right? I really like it. The ease of play. is pretty good. The turn, as you saw explained, is quite simple. The only thing that might be a little bit tricky is you need to remember to check the owned horses you have and that you are utilizing their special abilities, right? That's about it, really. Everything else is very clearly and cleanly laid out on your little player board here. And I like that the betting, the way it's laid out is truly easy to understand. At no point do you sort of get hung up on, okay, so it's the money I have times whatever, and then I lose this money, or is it added to my bet money? There's none of that. It's, 3 times 5 because it came in first, $15 for that. I know that seems silly if you are good with that sort of betting idea, but some players get tripped up by that. In the original one, they did. I haven't had any problems with this one. It is very straightforward. You know where to add up what, you know what score comes from where, and the game moves along at a nice clip. So, ease of play is fantastic. And then lastly, tactics, luck, strategy. Of course there's luck in this game. It's not as problematic. It's, again, 30 minutes or so. But then there's on top of that all the tactics of spreading your number, your horse that you're hoping will win, on as many other horses as possible. Buying a horse is a very important decision. They're not cheap, and you will not get a return on that horse unless it comes in first, second, or third. But then you do get that special ability. Sometimes that special ability is fantastic and worth having the horse, even if you know it might not win or is unlikely to come in the top 3 places. So that's an interesting decision to consider. There is, of course, the idea of marking off that concession grid and all the little bonuses you can get from that. Just more money. Or one of them is buying a horse for free. So you take the horse, but you don't pay the money for that one. So that's a great one. But of course, for every one of them you take, if there's something else you're not taking, that would be fantastic right now, right? So I really like that area, the concession little grid. All the jersey and the helmet stuff is neat. You get getting a bonus for doing all that. The whole thing is slick and sleek, and coupled with the luck come plenty of tactics and reacting to what's going on, but a lot of strategy, as you have to figure out how many baskets do you put your eggs in, what do you back, how strongly do you bet on something, all of those things. Having said all that, I think this game is excellent. I don't know if I would say it... I guess I could say it replaces the original game because it retains so much of the soul of the original game. The looks and the sort of vibe of the game is really quite different. Mechanically they are very similar in many ways. And I would not say if you're interested in one of the two that you need to go hunt down Long Shot. I don't know how available it is for one thing. But this one will give you, Long Shot, the dice game, this game, will give you the feeling that the original one did in a tighter time frame with more modern sensibilities and ideas, and just be a blast of fun. I think this game is just neat. It's one of my favorite sort of roll and write games, and the reason for that is not only because it's the energy is so engaging and interesting, and the rising tension and the angst of what's going to happen, but also because for a roll and write game, it is so different from so many of the ones that are out there. There's none of the roll of 3 dice and then the sum you mark that off, and then the difference you do this and try to get, you make a path or what. It doesn't feel like any of those. It's a horse racing game where it's not that in theme alone. They're right there. They're racing. You feel invested in that. So from that point of view, it also really stands out. I really like this one, folks. So there you go. That is Long Shot, the dice game. This one's going to get a 9 out of 10 from me. That is a seal of excellence. I think this little game is an excellent, excellent roll and write style game. I definitely recommend it if you like the theme, if you like the idea of pushing your luck or sort of hedging your bets, really, of the feeling of condensing that blast of fun into 30 minutes, and if you enjoy a game that plays with up to 8 and does that pretty well too. Plus, it comes with a solo mode that I didn't even cover, in which you use this board right here to figure out what your opponent is going to do against you. I just played it, in fact. I ended up with $102. My opponent here, $121. So I got smoked. But you know what? I'll be back. I'm going to try it again, see if I can do better. So there you go. There's even that too, now a solo mode. So there you go. Again, a 9 out of 10 from me. Really like this one. I hope you check it out. There you go. That is Long Shot the Dice Game. My name is Garcia. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you on the next one.